Forward. Halt. Left. 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 Right. Your left. 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 Right. Down, down. Down, down.
Arkansas boy with a lifelong plan took the oath like his old man, then turned around proud and shook his hand. L.A. kid stood right behind, took a deep breath and signed on the line, while tears streamed from his mama's eyes. They hopped right up on that Greyhound bus, swapping stories. They laughed and cussed, and they talked about the girls that they loved. They made a pact, shined up their boots, got the call before it hit the news. No clue what they were about to do. Good Thursday afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Finish This Fight Hour. Have y'all missed me? I know I've been traveling a lot the last couple of weeks. I've been in Chicago. We were dealing with Antifa. I was up there with Stuart Rhodes, and y'all, I live in the communist capital of Florida in Broward County, and I really kind of thought, it was kind of rough down here. We're pretty normal down here, even with the lefties. Chicago's off the chain. They shut down 3 of our event centers, two of them in one day, just threatening the owners. Man, it's crazy what's going on in our world. And we got all the protests taking place. We got a lot of stuff. So I've been traveling. Went to Georgia last week. Shot a pilot for a new podcast that's coming out very soon. We'll tell you about that. But I'm excited today. I've got a foundation founder that's going to be on. We're going to be talking about some stuff that's taking place here in the U.S. and around the world right now. It's what a time to be alive. A lot of people complaining, griping, talking about how rough it is. Y'all, I think if God has enough faith in you to have you in this time period, you ought to feel honored, because this is a great time to be alive. We get a chance to make a difference. So without any further ado, let me bring in my guest today. I've got Judy Isaacson. Is it Elias or Elias?
Elias. Thank you.
Elias. All right. So I wanted to get that straight. Judy, welcome to the show. Now, I got my wires crossed, and I threw a promo out saying you're a doctor, and you told me that's not the case.
Yeah,
so
I have to fess up.
I will take full responsibility for that. I do know a Dr. Judy, though. Dr. Judy Mikovits, a great friend of mine. Just been on the phone with her. Maybe that's where I got confused. I don't know. But let's talk about you, Judy Elias.
Well, thank you. Thanks so much for having me, Glenn. And I think what brought us together is our veterans. I'm the founder of Heroes to Heroes. Mm-hmm. And what we do is we work with veterans suffering from moral injury. And the challenge, as you know, is heavy duty guilt from what was done or not done. And it can be an action or taken or not taken that results in something horrific, that results in a death of a buddy, a death of anyone, or something that leads to something even more horrific. And many of our veterans come home with us, and they don't know how to find peace. They don't know how to find forgiveness. And they go from therapist to therapist to program to program. And what they're looking for is healing the soul, reconnecting with God. People who suffer from moral injury just often feel like, I don't deserve to live. God doesn't want me alive. What I've done is too horrific to ever be forgiven. And what Heroes to Heroes does is leads them to forgiveness. We have a 12-month program, and it starts with values. What are your values? What brought you here? What does God want you to do? What is your purpose? What is your mission? Are we living those values? Are we living toward our mission? Really identifying who we are, deep, deep within. What matters to me? Often with veterans, they were in the military, and Glenn, this, you become steeped in the values of the military and you forget yourself. And what we do with veterans is help them find out who they are. There are those military values, but then there are those civilian, there's those me values. What do I believe? What do I want to fight for? And I know with someone like you, Glenn, you've found what you want to fight for. Many of our vets haven't found that. They've forgotten that person, who they were. They've forgotten why they enlisted, what they were fighting for. We all know you're not fighting for a government. You're not fighting for policy. You're fighting for the guy. You're fighting for your family. You're fighting for your buddies. And when you're in a war situation, you're not thinking, what is the president going to do tomorrow? What does he say? That's not the deal.
Well, and I'm glad to hear a lot of what you just said, Judy, because I hadn't had a chance to really research you all deeply. But it sounds like you're faith-based. And I am absolutely faith-based. 35 years ago, I can't believe it's been that long. I was the young guy in Desert Storm. The Vietnam guys were the old guys. Now, I don't know where this gray in my beard came from all of a sudden, but now I'm the old guy. And you're right. The war fighters have a duty that's diametrically opposed to moral society. We can't just go out and get in a fight and kill somebody in the streets. But a lot of our duties involve things just like that. And so I'd never heard it called a moral wound before. Explain where that came from. Where did that come from?
Well, we've been hearing it more and more, but referring to doctors and patients with COVID, it started becoming popular, where there's a moral injury because they had to tell a patient's family they couldn't come and say goodbye. And really that moral injury, that moral wound is about an action. It's about an action you had to take. And with our vets, we prepare them physically. We prepare them a little bit emotionally. We prepare them intellectually to go to war, but we don't prepare them spiritually. There's, when we get to the 10 Commandments, which we all share with, Judeo-Christian, we all share. Lo tirtzach in Hebrew, thou shalt not murder. Well, it's often translated as thou shalt not kill.
Right.
We don't explain the difference to our soldiers. They're not going to war to murder. They're not Hamas. They're not Nazis. They're going to war to protect other people's lives and their own life. And our number one responsibility to God is to stay alive, to worship him.
Judy, it's such a slippery slope. There's such a fine line between thou shalt not kill and thou shalt not murder. And here's my thoughts on this. And tell me what you think. And I've really kind of come up with this recently. As a military, as a war fighter, you go through a basic training of some kind, whether that's Marines boot camp or Army basic or Navy. I think they call it boot camp as well. And I'm not sure about Air Force. I think it's a boot camp. Regardless, we go through a training that's designed to deprogram us from civilian life and reprogram us into a military structure. And I think there's a large percentage of people that join the military out of really not knowing what else they're going to do. They don't have structure at home. They may not have a great home life, but the military sounds like a good idea. And all of a sudden they're thrown into a situation where what they believed is taken away and they've been reprogrammed into a structure. Now they know if they follow orders, more than likely life's going to be pretty good. They're not going to get chewed out. They're not going to get an Article 13. They're going to possibly get promoted. They're going to make more money. There's a structure there. And they've been taught and trained in an MOS or into a job. So whether that's infantry, whether in my case it was artillery, whether it's communications, it's intelligence, whatever it is. And that's great. while you're in the military. But all of a sudden there comes a point in time, maybe 4 years, 6 years, 10, 20 years down the road, where an ETS takes place. And now the military is no longer a part of your life. And I think a lot of those people that went in with nothing else prior to military, they don't have anything to fall back on. And now, oh my gosh, what do we do? I think that's a big part of what's wrong with the problems our veterans are dealing with, the homelessness, the addiction, the suicides, and things like that, the moral injuries, the moral wounds, and how to deal with those. And we're really dropping the ball. I had a chance to be interviewed on OAN a while back, and the reporter asked me, why do I do what I do? And I told them, here's the thing. When people sign that dotted line, man, woman, whoever it is, they don't just sign over their life. They give the very best of who they are to this country. Yeah. They give their youth, their athleticism, their intellect, their creativity, their courage. They give the best of who they are. And when they come out, we end up giving them the bare minimum.
Yeah. And we
Fair
see
statement.
We see it all the time. And, there's a fight to the bottom. And we take heroes and we turn them into victims.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that more and more in our organization. And one of the things people have said to us is, I wish I would have found you 15 years ago, 20 years ago. My life would have been different. So one of the things we're doing with the program is moving it to campuses, to veterans on campus, to help them succeed, come up with a life plan so they don't fall into this trap. So they don't start getting sucked into the victimization that is so popular in this country. And we're seeing it more and more, and we need to reach veterans earlier.
That is a profound statement. Victimization that's so popular in this country. You are right on the money. It is used consistently, daily, for likes, for raising money, for popularity. It's cool to be a victim, and that just pisses me off. There's no, when did that change?
It's not. And so we started seeing it with the veterans we were serving. We've been seeing it for about 2 years now, and it just gets harder and harder, because if you're a victim, you get free stuff, you get more free stuff, you get pity, and you get more free stuff. And we got to a point where we said, you know what, we got to reach them before this victimization starts setting in. And people have been given labels since they've gotten out of the military. You have PTSD, therefore you can't work anymore, you can't do this. Now, I've taken a couple of those people who said they could never work anymore. I brought them into my organization, and they've turned things around for me. So we're wasting resources.
Right.
And so to take veterans who, they're my heroes. My dad, my husband was with you in Desert Storm. These are my heroes. And to take them and turn them into victims, it's so wrong on so many levels. Yeah. And it's very sad. And it's sad for them, because they had such a life of purpose while they were in the military, and we're stripping them of that life of purpose by saying, you can't do. We don't do it. Well, now we're doing it to our children too.
Right.
But it's become this whole culture, this country we can do anything. And, we're making America great again, but we're leaving so many people behind. And that's really the danger in this country, because we need everyone to work. We need everyone to be part of the fabric of this country for this country to move forward, to be the great country that we are heading to be. But we need everyone participating.
Do you have a solution in mind to bypass the victimhood popularity that's going on right now with soldiers, sailors, Marines that are coming out of service?
Well, it's reaching them earlier. And our program, we have a 12-month curriculum that's all values-based, but it helps people decide, what are my values? Am I living my values? Now, I would ask everyone who's listening to this podcast, write down your top 5 values right now. Write them down. And it may take you a while to figure out what those values are. But when you write them down, look at your day. Are you living those values? I have veterans tell me my family is my greatest value. And then we ask them, how do they spend their day? From most to least. Well, their family is somewhere down at 5 out of 7. Okay, well, if your family is your number one value, you doing something number one, aside from going to the gym or being on social media, needs to take its place. Like something's got to be on top that connects your family. For most of us, it's working to provide for our families. And the next thing is making sure our family is safe, making sure we have everything we need. But most of our day is spent tending to things for our family. What we're seeing with many of the veterans we serve is they say their value is their family, but family, by the time they get to the first 15 minutes a day they spend on their family, it's number 5 on their list. So really understanding what our lives are like and starting to live that life for a purpose. What is our purpose? What is our mission? God put everyone on this earth because we have a mission to do good. Okay, there's something God wants us to do in this world to make this world a better place. And for some people, it may be smiling at one person in one day and saving their life that they never even know about. For another person, it could be building IBM. For another person, for Donald Trump, it's making peace in the Middle East and peace in the world. Okay, but everyone has a purpose here. And if everyone fulfills their godly purpose, we have a perfect world.
Let me give you something, and this may be valuable to you, and it may be just a Glenn redneckism, I don't know. but I do know that God's primary purpose for man was to fellowship with him, was to be a part of him. He made us in his image. And I also know from my years of studying and trying to be a better Glenn is the people that you surround yourself with are likely who you're going to become like. You know, statistics say, show me the 5 closest people to you, and you're going to be somewhere in the middle of that. So I've learned that if I can be closer to God, I can be more like him. Now, he's got an individual direction for me. Now, I don't recommend doing what I do and going through what I've gone to get to where I am. It's not been an easy road, but it's his direction for me. So just throwing something at you, Judy. I think God's direction for us is to fellowship with him and to be more like him through getting close. Let him be there.
And it's also taking action. And I think that's where, you know, I'm an Orthodox Jew. Okay. And my whole day is around, okay, what is God asking me to do now? That's my day. Okay. My hair is covered. We respect each other. My husband's a rabbi, and our feeling is we've got to save lives. Okay. That's my passion. I've got to help people make their lives better, help them connect and reconnect with God, to find forgiveness, to find peace, to find purpose. And we all have a mission. And yes, connecting with God, number one, each day. There's so much to do all day. You know, am I speaking in a godly way? Did I respond to that person in a way that was the way I feel the best, that they'll feel my heart? And working with vets and trying to get them to seek out a little bit. We take them to Israel for 10 days. Now, if you can imagine some of these vets, when part of our survey, when they start, one of the questions is, what do you think God thinks of you? Which is something we should probably ask ourselves on a regular basis. I just came out of Yom Kippur, the whole period of this month that we spend is all about that question. Am I my best? What have I done? Who are the people I need to talk to because I may have wronged them this year? How do I make things better? Because in order for me to be in a good relationship with God, I've got to be in a good relationship with the people he created. Number one, I have to find their forgiveness and their peace, and I have to be in a good place with them. Then I have a right to ask him. And so, we just came from that. And getting people, when I have vets who tell me that God wishes they were dead, getting them to that space is so crucial, where they can say, you know what, God wants me here. And the way we do that, which is a miracle, is we take them to Israel. And people ask us, why there? Why can't you just tell them to go to church? Well, when you're dealing with moral injury, going to church, going to synagogue is very tough. You feel like you're not wanted there. And so what we do is we take them to God's land. And the first thing they do is get baptized in the Jordan River. Now, imagine that feeling of, God doesn't want me alive. The next thing, you're being baptized where Jesus was baptized. All of a sudden, wow, you start getting cleansed. The Jewish veterans who are with us, they go to a mikveh. Again, the physical cleansing is so important. We use the physical to get to the soul, to get to that soul, to get to the emotional and the spiritual. And so then after that day, they start walking the country. They start experiencing everything from Bethlehem, Stations of the Cross, Church of the Holy Sepulchre, and it gets into their heart. They have assignments. They've got to write a letter to God. They've got to have that communication. It's crucial. It's crucial for healing. As I talk to people, I ask them, like, you're going through a struggle, write a letter to God, pen and paper. Physically do it. Write that letter. Talk to God about your struggle. Ask him what you need to know, what you need from him. Ask him how to get it, and he'll tell you. But taking action. And so the 10 days in Israel we see for our vets is a miracle. And I would suggest people struggling with God, get on a plane, go to Israel, have that experience that land. That land was given by God to the Jews to caretake, so we can all go and experience and connect with him in our toughest times when we're home and we just don't feel we can connect from here. And we've seen miracles in Israel.
Judy, I love miracles, and I want to be able to see that myself. And in fact, I want to take a quick break because I'm going to change up a little bit. I want to show everybody, anybody that follows me knows why I do what I do. And I want to find out why you do what you do when we come back from this little break, and how you got here. But guys, if you paid any attention at all over the last several months, you know that in July we went to New York and took Joshua home with us. And Joshua had a chance to walk again for the first time in 3 years. And we're on a mission now. We're on a mission to get him walking permanently through an exoskeleton that'll be going through the FDA approval process later this year. And not just him. There's 20 plus 30,000 people in the veteran world that could benefit from this new technology that's coming into play. And my goal is big. We want to do 100 of these over the course of the next year, by the end of next year. That's a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of work. But I want to show you what it was like for Joshua to walk for the first time. Hang out here, just take a look at this.
So I had a 60 millimeter mortar that landed 3 feet in front of me. And so it didn't cook off. And so it technically, they would consider it to be a dud, but it wasn't a dud. It had a broken propeller on it. I got pictures of it. I carry with me and stuff. It's about the size of a 1.5 liter bottle, but it has kill radius about 25 meters, 20 to 25 meters. So basically, if that round would have went off, then confirmed dead would have been 20 to 25 meters. Been 31 months since I've been able to stand on even with a brace, or being able to take one single step. So it's been 31 months to the day yesterday.
And then God leaned in and he said, you know what? You're going to do a foundation. You're going to be the one to help these boys, and some girls, I'm sure, get to walking again, back on their feet.
It became so real when we physically came here and I physically got to see face to face to that unit. And knowing that, I mean, like I said, it's pretty much like an avatar. I mean, I felt like I, plugged in and we became one, like I was breathing with it, like, I mean, it just incredible. I mean, I can't even imagine, I can't even describe the feeling that I have, but like, it was like deep down inside of me, it's like, you know what, I felt like I can fight again. I really am able to stand again, and I'm like, I can do this.
Like, I guess the sense of pride, like to stand tall, no matter what height you are, not a jab at Glenn, but just to stand, I think is huge. You take it for granted.
Even trying to do something good, somebody makes fun of my height, but it is what it is. I'm going to tell you, it was when I saw Joshua stand up straight that first time, I don't think I'll ever be the same. That one almost broke me. So if it's available for you and you can do it, go to givesendgo.com/finish this fight. We're raising $140,000 to be able to buy that unit for him when it becomes available through the FDA. And he's just the first one. There's going to be a ton of those following behind. So givesendgo.com/finish this fight. Now, Judy, let's come back to you. Let's see if I can fix my screen here. Hang on.
Okay. Yeah. So you weren't supposed to make me cry in the middle of this.
Well, we did what we had to do.
That is such a blessing. It will be a blessing for so many people. Please, viewers, please give.
Well, unfortunately, you're picking up the slack that the government really owes our veterans, and we're also going to be picking up that slack. The less technological version of this technology has been available for over a decade, and out of that decade, there's been less than 100 veterans receive the ability to walk again. 10,000 could use the old technology, almost 30,000 could use the new. And so my goal is to embarrass our government and do 100 through our foundation next year. That's $15 million. I don't know where I'm going to find that, but God knows, because He's
God knows. God knows. That is life-changing. Wow. And so many levels. It just looking at his face, looking at her face, and my heart. I want to see every veteran who needs it have that. Very, very important. Thank you for taking that. We will talk about that.
Well, you and I may have a chance to chat about that at another time too.
Yeah.
So, Judy, I thought a year and a half ago I was just writing a song. I did a show with General Flynn about 3 years ago to raise money for an organization that was helping a veteran to walk again through an old exoskeleton. And when I went to shoot the music video for that song last year, after I wrote the song, I found out the organization wasn't helping veterans anymore. And I'm like, well, crap, man, what do I do now? And that's when God said, boy, this was the plan the whole time. And you're going to do it. And I said, what? He said, quit mouthing off. You heard what I said. And so we did. And we filmed a movie, and we've got the podcast now. I've got a book coming out, and we started the foundation. So that's how I got here. And honestly, I don't know what I'm doing half the time. And more than half the time, I don't even know that I don't know what I'm doing. But God's got my back, and He's helping us get this done. So, Judy, talk to me about you. How did you get involved? How did you found Heroes to Heroes?
Okay. Well, I was in the broadcast business. I was in ad sales management in New York for many years. And just to go back, and I had an experience that put so many things in my life together. And I'll do this as quickly as possible. But when I grew up in a home, my father was a World War II vet, second day Normandy, Battle of the Bulge, liberated a concentration camp. My grandfathers were also, they were World War I vets, all U.S. Army. My uncle, Korea, U.S. Army. But I struggled at home. And my father was one of the sweetest men I've ever met in my life. He is my heart, big part of my heart to this day. And in many ways, he never came home. He struggled. He saw a lot of things, but at the time, you didn't talk about it. You know, they were giving lobotomies for PTSD. And so he just quietly went about his business, and just a kind man, but never talked about what he saw, never talked about what he experienced. And every week after he retired, he would go and work with wounded vets. But in the meantime, as a child, I didn't know what was going on in my house. It was very chaotic. There were constantly, my mother was frustrated, and there were constant fights, and I ran away. And I just said, I can't deal with this anymore. I went to stay with a friend, but I called my father every week. And in one of our calls, he asked me, would I please go on a trip to Israel, a teen tour to Israel? He said, and I said, look, I don't want to go. I don't want to have anything to do with God, anything to do with faith. No, I'm done. And he said, please, Judy, please go for me. The next thing I knew, I was in Jerusalem, and I was standing at the Western Wall, and I had been afraid to go. I just felt, and now I understand it, I felt like God hated me, because I felt like I cursed him, and I walked away from everything good. And so the day we were going to the Western Wall, I was terrified. Friends of mine said, come on, you're going, you got to go. This is the big event for us. And I put my hand on that wall, and it was like everything came together. I just said, wow, I'm not alone. I'm part of something bigger. And I just said, God wants me to do something. What's going on here? I have to do something. And I felt this strong pull. And I just said that there's something bigger I need to do. And I walked away, and I started getting more involved in my faith. And it was a slow progress. But I ended up, getting married, raising my kids in their faith. They're very, very faithful to this day, and their children are learning that too. And in January 2021, my father died as a result of a car accident, and he was on his way to a Jewish war veterans meeting. And I found out that he was going to plan what they were going to do. They did events, they supported, they helped wounded vets who couldn't do things for themselves, veterans who were older, who were sickly. They would take them to doctor's appointments, grocery store. They would do all kinds of things for them, he and some of his buddies. And he had done this every week for the last 20 years of his life, and he never talked about it.
Your dad was the church. That's exactly what's supposed to be done.
And he was amazing. And I found this out after he passed. And I just said, I have to do something for him. And in 2009, I was invited to Walter Reed to visit our soldiers. And what I saw just changed my life. And I, as a mom, as a woman, a Jewish woman who we were taught, take care, you give, you take care of people. I said, how can I, as an American, how can I not take care of these veterans? They signed that bottom line to protect me and my family. And I have to do something for them. And I thought back, I started, what can I do? And at first I volunteered at organizations, and I said, there's something missing. And I realized it was God. God was missing in all these organizations. We were doing great things. We were doing physical things. We were taking them boating and rafting and on hikes and whatever it was. But God wasn't there. And I said, this is what I need to do. This is what basically God is telling me to do, is to bring him to them, bring them to him. And the next thing I know, I said, I'm going to start an organization, and part of it will be to go on that God journey, the God journey I had. It doesn't matter what faith you are. So the fear of faith of the Bible, Jews and Christians, Israel is the place where it all happened. It's where our stories came from. We need to go there, and maybe this is the way for our vets to explore their faith in an unashamed manner. I had tried going to synagogue. I was 16. It left me cold. It wasn't speaking to me.
Right.
And when I stepped in that land and just breathed in that air, and I said, there's something different here. I've got it. This is where it is. This is what I need to do. And since 2010, we have brought 523 veterans to Israel as part of our 12-month program. And we even had a group that was stuck there during the war with Iran. Some of the guys said, it's the greatest. I feel like I'm back in, but I don't have to try to do anything. This is kind of cool. I'm living history right now. And I was going, I need to get all of you out of this country.
The warfighter woke up, didn't
they? The warfighter woke up, and I said, up. And the war broke out Friday morning. I had them out through Jordan on Tuesday. I just said, oh no. You know, we were getting woken up at all hours of the night. It was not easy. It was my first war, but not my husband's, not theirs.
Right.
And you know,
there's just, you know what? If you haven't been there, it's probably a little bit difficult to understand. Where a lot of people would be terrified, but a warfighter's like, yeah, this is what I was trained to be around, and it's weird, man. I can imagine.
Our first siren, my husband and I arrived in Israel a week before the team, and I wanted to go. We had moved things because of the war in Gaza, and we just said, okay, let me just check everything out. And we have 4 granddaughters who live there with, you know, our daughter and son-in-law, my stepdaughter and son-in-law, and so we landed. The first thing that happened, a siren, and we were in the airport, and that was my first siren I ever heard. And they rushed us into the bomb shelter in the airport. That was also the restroom, which was kind of a thank you God thing. You know, I needed that too. So It was a 2-for-1. And, you know, that was my initiation. And I just said, okay, maybe that was the one time. But every time we've brought a group, they have just, you know, Israel is very much like one person said, this is a vet country. We feel safe here. Everyone has been, 70% of the people, men and women, have been in the military. Mm-hmm. So when our vets go, Israel has their back. They don't have to be the sheepdog. They can relax. Many of them sleep for the first time, and, you know, without medication. So it's very cathartic. And it's just such a blessing to see it. And, you know, just all of the experience in the past months. And when you're in Israel, and you've been there, Glenn?
I've not, no.
We have to get you there.
Yeah, we need to make that happen. Speaking of, we need to make that happen because we're running, where are we at? We're at about, we got about 15 or so minutes left. Okay. You're doing great work. You're doing what the government should do. In my opinion, I've come up with a plan that we have the basic training and indoctrination to get in, but there's nothing to get out. I feel like we owe our warfighters an exit basic training to help them to be able to be ready to walk back out into this world. And it sounds to me like you're doing that with God and faith-based guidance in a 12-month program. And I wish we had more time to dig in deeply to the month by month and how you do that. But you're talking about going to Israel. There's a lot of stuff happening over there right now.
It's the news of the week, the month, the year.
Yeah. And there's a lot of division on that. So let's talk about what's just happened in the last few days. The peace treaty, phase 1 that's taken place. And what are the outcomes that you expect to take place here between Gaza and Israel?
Wow. Well, first of all, I want to publicly thank President Trump, because without him, none of this would have happened. He's a genius. He's a deal maker. He sees behind the lines. He gets people. He understands how to speak with people, and he understands what makes them tick. Those hostages for 2 years, the Red Cross didn't even visit them. Okay, there was nothing done for them.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a saying in the Jewish community: "No Jews, no news." And so, if we're, everybody wants us to, or all of us, after those hostages were taken and babies were put in ovens, and the ovens were turned on in front of their parents, and they were murdered in that brutal way on October 7th. And 3 days later, the world is against us, against Israel, and against the Jewish people. And we're just, it's mind-boggling. And the degree of anti-Semitism, because it can't be anything else, is so frightening. And to have someone like President Trump, and as we're thinking about all these miracles that have happened since, through him, and in this whole process,
the things that you're saying right now, quite frankly, Judy, are diametrically opposed to the agenda that's thrown out there, that the Jewish people in America, they vote blue. They're not for Trump. They don't have any love about that at all. I actually have a guy that plays blues harmonica in my band that's Israeli. He's Jewish. And he is one of the most intellectually open men I've ever met in my life. Conservative, not a Republican, not a Democrat, conservative guy. And I bounce this stuff off of him all the time. But what you're saying doesn't meet the agenda. And you're talking about, within 3 days, 2 or 3 days, everybody was against Israel, and the anti-Semitism. That's so mixed up that it's even difficult to find the truth there.
Yeah, it's for us, it was really horrifying. Now, 70%, the recent poll, 70% of Jews are now pro-Trump. Okay, so that he has flipped that switch. And all of a sudden people said, wait a minute, he moved the embassy to Jerusalem. He created this. And there was a reason why he had to lose to Biden. It's almost like all this had to happen to get to where we are now, to get people to kind of wake up and say, look, we have a systemic problem. We have a problem within our own community where we can't look at the gifts someone is giving us. And now we have he has a 70%, positive rating in the Jewish community. That's a miracle. And those are Jews that are, many, many Jews are not involved in Judaism. They don't understand our Bible. Mm-hmm. Because if you look, when I listen to President Trump, he's often, I'm going like, well, that's what it says in the Bible. That's why he's doing it. And but people who don't understand the Bible, we have Jews, we have Christians, everyone who
Judeo-Christians, you got all kinds of people.
And they don't really know who they are. They don't know what they're preaching, or even what they're supposed to believe. And so for this to happen, where you have such 70%, when only about 20 to 20% of us, really observe our faith. We're usually the ones that are conservative.
Right.
Because he talks about what the Torah says. So, sometimes it takes a catastrophe. And, there are so many, Trump had to come in at this time. And I believe if he was president, I believe it, that this would not have happened.
Mm-hmm.
But if he had been president for 8 years and then it happened, we would have never had those hostages home. We wouldn't have had anyone home.
You're talking about something that a lot of people have a hard time swallowing and understanding, is the bad things have to happen sometimes in order to get us to where we're supposed to be. And it happens not just in a nation, but it happens personally. In 2017.
Oh, sorry about the dog barking.
Oh, my dog's got something to say too.
Yeah, he's saying, when I start praying, he prays with me. So
in 2017, I lost my freedom. And God used that to put me back into the music world at 52 years old after being out for 19 years in order to put me to where I am today. And you couldn't give me $10 million and say, I'm going to take that bad year away from you, because he used that in my life to put me on the path to greatness. And here's what I think a lot of people don't get, because faith is not found in the comfortable. I've said this many times. Faith is found in the fire. Faith is not found in the easy. And as a society, we are programmed to look for comfort and security and easy stuff. So faith is missing in our lives on a personal basis an awful lot. I mean, let's go to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the Old Testament in the Torah and talk about the king had been convinced to make an idol in his image and create a law that if anyone didn't bow down before that idol, they would be killed. And Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego wouldn't do it. And he said, well, yeah, all you got to do is bow down. They said, no, we won't. Our God will rescue us from the death. But even if he doesn't, we won't bow. Right. That's a lesson to be learned because this world is temporary for each one of us. We've got a mission. We've got a job. We've got a best road that God has in mind for us. But it's not easy. We do. It's not easy. And I know what you've done has not been easy for you.
It's not. I mean, I apply for VA grants and it's like, okay, goodbye. Why am I doing this? This is so beyond what they're able to do. And I get that. And it's, I feel sad for our vets that they can't get these, the things that matter the most. Material things come and go, like money comes and goes, but your soul, your heart, who you are, that's the most important thing. We talk about, it's not really a problem if you can throw money at it. And when we look at what our government does, they throw money at things and the problems don't go away. The problems get exacerbated. And what we have to do is throw heart at people. And we've got to throw our souls, ourselves, what we know, our knowledge, and help people learn, help people help themselves. They say, what? Either teach him to fish or he's never going to feed himself. Right. And what we're doing is we're throwing money at problems. We're not throwing heart. We're not throwing sensitivity. We're not throwing our real education. It's all what looks good, what sounds good. What can we do now? What's the hot? Let's do yoga. I remember when they gave $10 million to yoga.
Yeah.
The vets I work with, the last thing they need to do is sit around and meditate on what their issues are. Mm-hmm. That's not going to help these issues go away. They've got to take action. They've got to heal their soul and they've got to take action. And so much of faith is action. You're taking a tremendous action right now. You're gonna help people because of the action you're taking. If you said, oh, well, God wants me to do this and there's that thing, oh, that's really cool. So I'm gonna send $20 and hopefully the FDA will do this and hopefully they'll do it. We'd be sitting here, for another 30 years waiting for the first 5 people. So
Judy, that's how you know God's given you a mission, sis, is if it's so much bigger than you can't even imagine being able to get it done. But you have peace about it. That's when you know, because this is bigger than me. And I guarantee what you're doing is bigger than you. 500, and you said 85.
525 Americans, another about 160 IDF veterans.
So you're looking at 700 veterans that you've taken to the Holy Land and helped them to heal and go through a 12-month program. Good Lord Almighty, that's 700 more than the government's done.
Well, we do. I wish it was 700,000, and I look at what's going on in Israel now, and they have a very different take on PTSD because the whole country has it. So they can't, as far as they're concerned, they don't have time for it. Mm-hmm. They've got to they've got to take action. And what we've seen when we look at the hostages, I don't know if you had a chance to see the videos of them coming home.
I have, yes.
Remember, like the father who screamed, there's a prayer we say, thank you, God, for taking me to this time. Mm-hmm. And These are secular people who, before this war, were not interested in their faith. All of them just screamed out different prayers. It was thank God, thank God, thank God. One of the hostages, and I wish I could remember his name at this moment, but he had told his captors, I want a prayer book. I want, we have phylacteries. He wanted a prayer shawl, and they got it for him. And he said three things kept him through that captivity. And I think he was the only person that was given anything. But that's what got him through, his connection to God. And they were put in, what those hostages went through was probably equivalent to many of our people who went through the Holocaust. And when they came out, many of them found resilience. And they built some of the biggest companies we have in this country and in the world. And so how do we harness that? And how do we take our veterans who went through enough, but how do we take that and harness that and turn that into some power for good, the way many Holocaust survivors turned their lives into good? And I know my in-laws were Holocaust survivors, and they built a family. Their kids are successful, and they made their way here. They came here with nothing. They were sponsored, and they came here, and they built their lives. And how do we do the same for these veterans? We're going to see some of these hostages who have already been let out. Now, they were put in cages, and they were chained. They were starved. They were underground. They didn't even know if it was day or night.
Right.
And after that, one of the women came out. She's already back in the IDF. She wants to fight. So how do we get our veterans taking a look at what's going on over there and what people survived? How do we harness all of that stuff and help them to win? And we're not looking at that enough. We're looking at, okay, how do we get them the basics? Yes, you can give them this and give them that. But how do you harness all that positive, all these great people who who did so much for our country and who would do more if they were given, we call it hizuk, this strength and power, and I'm behind you. And stop looking at them as victims and look at them with tremendous potential. We have people with that exoskeleton. That young man can do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
Okay, once he has that and he's comfortable, but he struck me as someone who is going to do whatever he's going to do great things.
He already is. This man is building a retreat in Texas for other veterans and first responders to come and heal. And he's doing it from a wheelchair.
You can do it, and he can do it. And we have to have, like when I was told by the vets who I said, I want you to work for me. And they said, we were told we can't. One person said to me, I was told I can't do anything technological. I said, here's the thing. My challenge right now is I'm having trouble with Salesforce. Okay. And if you can figure that out for me? He's like, well, I was told I can. I said, you know what? Try it. He had it figured out. He downloaded everything. He looked at the whole program. He explained it to me. He helped me understand that wasn't going to work for us. And he helped me find a program that would. And that was a person who was told he couldn't do it.
Right.
And all he needed to hear was, you know what? I need your help. This is something I can't figure out. I don't really have the time to dig into it. And I've made myself crazy about that kind of technology. And then I realized it was just what they were looking for. What they were offering was not what we needed. So, but with his help, we've got to find a way heal those souls and help those souls find their mission. And that's what Heroes to
You're
Heroes is
giving
all about.
you're giving warfighters a mission, and that is a huge key to helping them heal. They've got something to focus on and towards and to work towards. And truthfully, that's what we're trained to do as soldiers, Marines, is to go for the mission. That's laser focused. You've got a mission. That's what you work for. So God led you to the right answers. Coming to Him first and foremost, without faith in Him and getting to know Him for who He is, we're kind of lost anyway. We're bouncing around a world that's got 1,000 different ideas, and none of them really make sense until it comes to Him. So you're starting with a faith base, and that's amazing. And then giving these guys some healing and some missions. Judy, I commend you for what you're doing. Thank you for what you're doing.
Well, thank you. Now, imagine, Glenn, being a teenager in this world when your parents have taken away God. They've taken away all of your belief system. That you no longer believe in your government. Okay. Mm-hmm. They're trashing the president of the country, and there's no respect there. And then they take away your gender.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, how are our kids going to heal from this? How are we ever going to get them to a place where they can say, this is who I am, this is what I value? I'm encouraged because young people are now coming back to God. And, Charlie Kirk, God bless him, he was the tool to make this happen. Uh-huh. And he did great things with that. And unfortunately, it took a tragedy for people to wake up, but often that's what it takes. Again, the way God works is in ways we don't always want to love the truth, but sometimes it's what we need. Uh-huh. And so now here we are, and young people are saying, wait a minute, maybe it's not bad to have a family. Maybe it's not bad to have God in my life. This is what I need. And their rebellion against their parents may be coming back to faith. And that would be probably one of the greatest things to see, I know, in my lifetime. And I'd love to see it in this country.
I would too. And that's really a deep rabbit hole. We could talk for an hour just on that. I believe we're in the spiritual battle of a millennium right now. If God would open the eyes of our spirit world to our vision, I think half the world would fall over from a heart attack and fear. We're truthfully in a spiritual battle right now, but we also believe that we've just seen the beginnings of revival here recently. People being spiritually awakened in a massive way, and it's not come through the church, the local New Testament four walls church. It's not come through the synagogues. It's come through folks like you. It's come through warrior folks that I know that have sold out to God and are on a mission, and people see it, and it's different. It's different. You can tell when somebody is guided by faith instead of guided by ego. Yeah. There's a difference. You can see it. And for that, Judy, I appreciate you coming on the show. Let's end real quickly with, what are your thoughts about the peace treaty that's just taken place between Israel and Hamas? And talk to me the negotiation between the U.S. and Hamas. What are the implications of that? And are we on a slippery slope right there?
Well, number one, I'm so grateful the hostages are home, that I'm trying to, for the first time in 2 years, experience full joy. Waiting for the rest of the bodies to come. I think Hamas is not going to disarm. There are certain things going on right now. I mean, they're murdering people all over Gaza.
I just recently saw some of that. Yeah,
there are over 600 clans, and some of them really want peace, and they don't want Hamas. And Hamas is murdering them left and right. Why we're not out there? We're the people who were protesting against the way the Palestinians were being treated, and these assassinations of other clans all over. More people are dying have died in the past few days who were just innocently answering their doors than in the past couple of years.
And died by the hands of Hamas, not Israel. Let's make that clear.
But as we say, no Jews, no news. Nobody cares unless it's Jews killing somebody, unless Jews are in the mix. And, you know, the Palestinian children who were used as, you know, human shields. And the kindergartens with the weapons underneath, with rockets were built inside kindergartens and hospitals. And now we're looking at who Hamas really is. All right, they had to give up the hostages. Now they have to protect their turf. And I'm not sure how long President Trump is going to allow this to go on unless he thinks it's a self-cleaning oven and they can all kill each other and we can solve the problem. You know, maybe that's in the back of his head. But the clan, there are over 600 clans. And when Israel's out of the picture, which is why they need Israel in the picture to hate, they will kill each other. And this is what's going on now. So I guess I'm grateful the hostages are home. Do I think the problem is going to go away? No. They are not interested in an economic problem. They're not interested in economic freedom. The Palestinian Arabs have been poisoned from birth to hate. And when you look at hate, we have, for example, Rashida Tlaib. She was raised in this environment of hate. Now she's brought that hate to Congress. And her whole life is defined by that hate. Now she's in a position where she could say, she's got every privilege accorded that can be accorded to you in this country.
Yeah.
She's going to have health insurance forever. She's going to have a big pension forever. She's going to get uber wealthy. She's been in Congress. And she still hates this country.
You can see it all over her.
And so when you have that poison in almost 2 million people, and 70% of that population thought October 7th was the right thing to do. Murdering children, elderly people, Holocaust survivors, women, people in their homes. I mean, this was okay with 70% of the population of Gaza. How do you turn that over? We need a Marshall Plan like we had in Germany. Go in there, educate them, take over the school system, teach them properly. The other Arab countries don't want them.
Right.
They were all Jordanians before 1948. And in 1948, they were offered a state. They were offered a state again at Oslo. They turned it down twice. They're not looking for a state. It's about annihilating the Jews.
Yeah.
And so Gaza's not going to change. Hamas is still armed. They're not going to give up their weapons. They are murdering other Gazans, which where are all these Gaza people that were out there fighting? They wanted a ceasefire. All of a sudden they get a ceasefire and they don't want a ceasefire. And now Gazans are being murdered by Gazans are being murdered by Hamas, and that's okay as long as it's Hamas and not Jewish people.
Right.
It's not Israel. So we have a major problem, and it's going to be interesting to see how President Trump moves forward. I hope he can look at this and see it for what it is, and not get too wrapped up in, he's our hero. Forget he got those hostages out. He is the hero in this story. And, working with God, he is God's messenger here. And I hope he can say, okay, I got that done, but now they have to go finish the job.
Trump has to be aware that he's in such a tough spot. And just has to be willing to do the right thing no matter what. Putting the peace deal together was great, and that's amazing. But we all know that you can't negotiate with a terrorist organization.
Yeah.
They're not going to keep their word. So he's got to know that, and he knows it's going to fall apart. He also can't just go in and kill them all, because now he's a warfighter president, and everybody's going to hate him for that. He's in a tough spot, but I think he's done the best with what he's been given. And for that, I commend you, President Trump. Thank you very much.
He's amazing, and he's one of my top heroes. And a moral, he's now is going to take a lot of moral courage, and most people don't have moral courage, and he has it. He's in bed with some kind of nasty people right now. Qatar's a tough customer. They're like Hamas with a smile. And but he got it done, and he got those hostages home. So now we're going to see over the next couple weeks, because his patience is going to wear thin. And when he starts hearing, if the people who were fighting for Gaza on our college campuses all over the country really care about Gaza, they should be out there saying, why are Gazans getting murdered by Hamas? Why are you letting this happen? But they don't really care about the Gazans. It was never about that. So it's a shame, and it's sad for the Gazans. And, as a human being, I feel sorry for the Palestinian Arab children that live in Gaza and live in Judea and Samaria. They're taught hate from the minute they're born. When God took us out of Egypt, he had to walk us in the desert for 40 years to get the slavery out of our heads.
Yeah. To break the generational curses.
And we had to stop with the slave mentality. And so now we've got to work with them to stop with the hate mentality.
Yeah.
And that's a bigger problem than all of this other stuff. But a good Marshall Plan. The Marshall Plan changed Germany. Who has really been on this? Look at who Germany is on the side of right more than they're not. And this is 2 generations later. But they learned, they were taught properly. We took the lead on that. And this is something we need to do, but we need to be honest about it. And we don't like to be honest because honesty can be ugly, and it doesn't look like our rose-colored glasses want it to look.
Yeah, it requires humility. It requires us to look at ourselves. So, Judy, we've got to end this show. We're already over time, and I think we could probably go on for another hour. I appreciate you coming on. Stay around. Let's talk backstage for just a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, Finish This Fight Thursday edition is ending, but go to her website, heroes2heroes.org. Check out what they're doing for our heroes. One-on-one, 12-month program. Is there a way for them to contact you if somebody needs some help?
Yes. There's also a way to apply online. It's right on our website, and they can reach me, Judy, at heroes2heroes.org.
Wonderful. Well, Judy, thanks for coming on. Y'all, we're going to kick it off again next week. I apologize for all my travel. It's going to take me a few days probably to get some scheduling done, but we're going to kick off. I got some exciting things that are happening. I can't tell you yet because then I'd have to kill you. No, not really. But good things are taking place. So hang on to this. Finish This Fight is coming your way. Look for you next Tuesday at 3:30. And Judy, let's chat backstage. Here's what I got left. Uncle Glenn loves y'all, and I'll see you on the other side.
Forward, halt, left, 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 right, your left, 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 right. Down,
Arkansas boy with a lifelong plan took the oath like his old man, then turned around proud and shook his hand. L.A. kid stood right behind, took a deep breath and signed on the line, while tears streamed from his mama's eyes.